Welcome to the Pinterest and SEO marketing. Actually, let me say it this way, because I met you there.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
so welcome to the We Don't Play podcast station, first and foremost. And I'm so glad I was able to connect with you in the Pinterest and SEO marketing club. And now we're on the We Don't Play podcast. And I'm so excited to have you here, Ijeoma. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. I would love people to know more about you, who you are, what you do, because I know we're going to go into a lot of digital marketing tips today, but that's going to be very much based on your experience. So please let us know what you do and we can be able to take it from there.
Yeah, no worries. So I am a physician. I call myself a physician scholar activist. So I'm Dr. Ijeoma Opara, Ijeoma Nnodim Opara. And I emphasize the Nnodim part because I have a sister girlfriend, sister scholar, who is Dr. Ijeoma Opara, but her middle name is Onyekachi. So she's Dr. Ijeoma Onyekachi Opara, and she's a PhD. I'm an MD, I'm a medical doctor. So I go by all three names, Ijeoma Nnodim Opara. And then for your listeners out there who are, Niger and African, so what's up, Niger? And for those who are not, what's up to you too? Ijeoma means safe journey. So a little bit of my background: I am a primary care doctor. I'm a double board certified in internal medicine and pediatrics. That means I take care of adults and children, and I focus on people of African descent primarily. Those are my patients, the patient population I take care of. I practice what I call liberation medicine, which means medicine that takes into consideration the historical and sociocultural context of our people and include that in the ways that we deliver health assessments and also provide care for our people. And the idea and the goal is that all that needs to be in service of optimizing health equity and ensuring that we experience justice inside of our medical and healthcare. So we pay respects for the ways that we have been treated in the healthcare system historically and even currently. And we also work hard to reimagine and reconstruct what healthcare and medicine should look like for people of African descent. That is in the United States and all over the world. I'm based in Detroit, Michigan, and I work very closely and collaborate with other folks of like mind who, again, practice liberation medicine out here in these streets. The other hats I wear is that I am also, again, like I said, an activist. So in order to do the work I do, I have to work within the context of community organizing, collaborate with folks that are doing work on the ground, so that informs my medical practice, right? I'm also an educator. I'm an assistant professor of internal medicine and pediatrics at the School of Medicine of Wayne State University. And I'm a researcher, so I'm a scholar. So I do research, and my focus is really, again, looking at the social determinants of health. That means those factors that impact our health, which we know impact it even more than our genetics or biomedicine. Those factors include our housing, education, whether or not we interact with the criminal justice system, our early childhood experiences, et cetera, our income, all of those things, which are influenced by structural factors such as structural racism and white supremacy and patriarchy. And so how do we understand how those dynamics work to impact our health so that we can transform them to create solutions that are sustainable and effective to improve our health and health outcomes? That's what my research is. And I focus especially on the assets, the resources, the positive pieces inside of our culture and our experience, and the ways that we organize ourselves in order to leverage those things to positively impact our health. So that's like my focus in research. So that's a little bit of where, my background, and, as it relates to the conversation today, is understanding that in 2021, the digital platform is critical to translating all these pieces I just spoke about into solutions that can be effective to actually move the needle when it comes to health equity, when it comes to improving and optimizing the health and health outcomes of people of color all over the world. And how does one do that effectively? How does one do that creatively? How does one do that sustainably becomes part of the question.
I love that you mentioned all these things because they're all integrative. They're all connecting the dots to a bigger picture. Because when you start thinking about content quality and delivery, it all points back to what you do outside the social media platform. Because I can see that with what you've said, it's very valid that your content is being received and people are actually engaging with it because there's a need for that information rather than showing up and posting because you have something to say. So there a way you can point us into that direction on how they engage with your content so that you can drive the right message to the right person?
Correct. So I would tell you right now, and that's why I was so grateful to connect with you, my brother, because you are certainly an expert in this place, and I respect expertise. You know, I have expertise in all the things I just talked about, whether it's, you know, again, medicine, healthcare, community organizing, activism, scholarship and research in this space of health equity, justice, and liberation. However, I would tell you right now that I am still a learner when it comes to, you know, digital expertise and being technologically savvy for how do you translate all this onto the social media platforms and various digital platforms in order to improve and increase the effectiveness and efficiency of the work and to move the needle in the direction that we need to move the needle in order to get the outcomes that we're looking for. So I would tell you that I am a learner. I'm a beginner in this conversation, but I would say what I do right now is that I try to leverage my primary platform being Twitter, and I started off of there and just really posting thoughts, posting my sort of philosophy, my principles, my, you know, and sharing the work that I'm doing on the Twitter platform. And I also started to connect with others who are like-minded and doing similar work throughout the country. And it really helped with being on when we went into shutdown last year, you know, with the pandemic. And then as after George Floyd and the BLM movement came to a head and everybody was at home. And so they were woke enough to, to notice what's going on. And the digital platform was so critical in making that happen and really bringing to people's awareness, to their consciousness, what has always been happening. But now folks were at home and, you know, and arrested enough to actually observe that. And so, you know, everybody woke up and got to marching and got to protesting, and folks started paying attention. And that was the digital media that made that, you know, to happen. And so for those of us that, even though I am on the front lines as a physician, I'm on the COVID front lines, but I didn't need to be in the hospital or in the clinic as much as I usually am, because you just go do what you need to do and go home, because we were on shutdown except for essential services. So while at home, and at some point I had to be quarantined too. So that made me to really sit down and start to pay attention and to start to connect with other people who are like-minded, other physicians, other activists, other scholars who were trying to study and understand all these forces of structural racism. For how does this show up in healthcare? How does it, you know, impact health disparities? All these other pieces. So connecting with them, building that community, sharing what I was working on, what I know, them doing the same thing. And before you know it, from that platform, we started to organize and create organizations such as Coalition to Advance Anti-Racism in Medicine, the Black Healer Network. We started to meet offline, created Zoom meetings to connect in real life, actually see each other's face and start to talk about how can we collaborate and, you know, build something solid off of what we started on Twitter. So that's one way that we started, that the digital engagement worked out for me. And then through that, Clubhouse, you know, showed up in the midst of that. And that was another opportunity to meet people of like mind and to learn. I learned so much, you know, off of Clubhouse and meeting folks with great expertise and beginning to understand that my toolkit was limited. I needed to expand. And so as I was following people like you and so many others and listening on to the conversations, I was beginning to understand that, okay, I would need to expand beyond Twitter. I need to look at Instagram closer. I learned about Pinterest from you. Folks started teaching me about LinkedIn and Facebook and how to sort of translate that beyond, because I had a LinkedIn account. I barely opened that bad boy. I had an IG account. It was just like pictures. Here's my garden. Here's my kids doing something silly. Same with Facebook. But I started to learn that no, these are tools that can be leveraged to move the needle in so many ways, not only to make money off of products, but we're all in sales. We're either selling a product or it's a service, or you're selling an idea, or you're selling, you're selling power. Frankly, you're selling opportunity to make a difference. So we're all in sales. And once that my mind got transformed, I was like, wow, I have been sleeping on these are tools to actually for change, to actually leverage, to actually move the needle in terms of making a difference. It's not just for play, so to speak, or it's not just for selling like products and services and all. No, it's also to sell ideas that can fuel and drive social change so that life can be better for all of us. And that's what really got me going. And so now I am slowly but surely transforming my accounts on Instagram. My handle is at INNODIM, which is the same on Twitter, but on Instagram and on Facebook, as well as to optimize Twitter, to create the engagement that will hopefully translate into being more effective in terms of social change in medicine and healthcare. I hope that makes sense.
That makes total sense, because now we're using our voice and we're using our words, to express ourselves. Like you mentioned with Twitter, I'm thinking of threads, like Twitter threads, Twitter hashtags. On Clubhouse, you can actually start a Twitter trend through Clubhouse and have that hashtag in your title, and then lead people into that room, which is going to build conversation. So now that you've talked about digital marketing and, medicine, I feel like for me, what I've noticed is that in this industry, specifically to health industries, they do so well with content delivery, but they don't do so much with interactive.
Okay, all right.
Like I can tell you what this medicine does, but I've not been able to give you a quiz or something that can help me know better about you, that can help me sideline all the things that I need to at least streamline to your business.
Interesting. Yeah. No, I love that. So I'm glad you mentioned like threads. And so yes, I had to learn what are the features of these, platforms that can be leveraged towards increasing, like you said, the interaction. So, I definitely do Twitter threads. What else do I do? Of course, I started, someone encouraged me like videos, like even if it's just a little bit, like videos, the audio visual piece is so important. So I started moving beyond just words or still pictures. I still do still pictures and still photos, but to show to have little videos. They don't have to be glorious and all that. I'm really blessed that, again, it's about voice and my brain. So I don't worry about makeup. I don't worry about filters. I don't worry about being cute. So that means I don't have to take that extra time to like be all cute. I could just put the work out there if I'm doing, behind the scenes and showing, how, the sausage gets made, so to speak. So that's another thing that I started to do. What else? Like you said, Clubhouse, right? So if I'm in the club, if I'm in the room, posting that on Twitter, posting that on Facebook and on IG across the platforms to say, hey, I'm, in the room, and drive people, to the room to have these conversations. And to your point about interaction, I started using polls. I started doing polls on Twitter as well to get that feedback, like you said, to inform the work. And I learned about polls on IG. It's so crazy. I just recently learned how to do, polls on IG and Facebook. I didn't even know where the tabs lived, and I was hearing polls. I'm like, what's polls? And so but that's okay. You learn at your speed, and that's fine. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So so I just started learning to do that, and I started doing that too. But you're so right. We definitely need to do better around being interactive and getting the feedback from our audience, and using that to inform our communication or our content, so to speak, is so true. And I'm learning that as well. I'll be hosting an IG and Facebook FB Live question and answer for our medical students who are applying for residency this year. And there's always tons of questions. And so usually what we'll do is like do a typical, like, you know, either a Zoom or an in-person. It depends, because with the Delta variant, we're still very careful about in-person meetings. So it will probably have been a Zoom hosted by the school. And then if anybody wants to join, they can join. But now I'm learning, no, you know, do a live, you know, do it as a live, publicize it, and you can use that opportunity. You can save that video, use it for many different, you know, create clips and disseminate it across platform. It's also a great research tool because the questions help to inform future content. And so that feedback, that interaction is exactly what you're talking about, which yes, we need to be better about that.
Yeah, that's great that you also highlighted the fact that the more we can engage, the more we can solve. Because
I love that. The more we can engage, the more, yes. Oh yeah, that's powerful. Yes, I love that.
yeah, because that way people are empowered now to speak and help others that are not on the platform because they came across your feed or they came across something that was beneficial to them. You know, most times we wonder, why is this post doing better than this one? And you realize it's because this post is doing better just because there's an element of trust. You know, like I can tell you the best recipes, but are you ever going to follow what I say if you don't trust me?
If you don't trust me, oh my God, that is so huge. And we see that now, especially with the pandemic and with the vaccines, right? And how, oh my gosh, I've been part of so many rooms on Clubhouse and beyond, dealing with vaccine hesitancy and vaccine skepticism, and people who have all kinds of questions about it. And I realized very quickly that, you know, ultimately at the end of the day, people can have 1,000 questions or one question or no question, but without trust, you know, it's very tough. And I can see that a lot of the questions that people have are rooted in the fact that there has been, unfortunately, a lack of trust with, for some people, with the healthcare system and the medical establishments, right? Over time, over years. And now we're sort of reaping the results of that because many of us have not paid attention to investing in building that trust. And one tool, there are many ways to do that, but one of those ways is to build engagement, like you said, like, you know, building the opportunities for regular, consistent engagement online, because everybody's online now, and offline, but also online, in order to, as a tool to build trust. And I think that the healthcare community is sort of behind on that, and we can certainly do better.
That's amazing that you said that if you're behind, then it means that there's an opportunity. Because now I'm imagining if, you know, small business owners or people who are health practitioners take their personal brand seriously, and then you become that beacon of light that helps somebody else to get a referral because they saw you first. So I'm not even thinking about social media like posting, because for you, you're taking it in a different way. It's about advocacy. It's about how can you take someone from this perception to this thought process, but because you were able to help them understand it, it wasn't forceful. So those are things that I think you can be able to take advantage of now, because corporately there are guidelines, there are principles, there are policies. But if you have it in a way that you can build a brand culture, I think you can do way more and attract more impact.
And I think what you said is absolutely right. And I think that's where I am needing to grow. And I'm sure that there are people that are doing an excellent job of this. And that's where one of the things, as part of my growth process and my growth strategy, is to connect with those folks, again, of like mind, who have been able to successfully build a brand culture so that they can, again, we can be trusted messengers for impact, and that impact being social change, so that life is better for everybody, particularly those who are most marginalized, those most disenfranchised. You know, none of us, there's a saying, you know, none of us are free until all of us are free. And so how do we leverage all tools, of which technology and digital media is one of those tools. But how do we leverage all tools towards that end? And so I love the way that you phrase that. That is so important. Absolutely. And I think that's part of my growth strategy, is how to be part of that culture, how to build that brand culture so that it can be leveraged towards making that change. And let's also keep in mind, it's not just about, it is definitely about moving the needle with one person or a few people or even more. But it's also, and this is important to move the needle so that policies and laws, can change and move so that the most people benefit. And that's so important. It's the one person, it's the two people, it's the community, it's the the group of folks, but it's also who in that group of folks, because in direct and indirect ways, right? So in a direct way, whereby people are influenced and their behaviors shift, their ways of thinking shift, right? But that person might be a person who is of authority somewhere. So they may be a congressperson, they may be a council person, they may be a president, they may be a mayor, they may be a governor, what have you. So that now with a shifted mindset, with the shifted behaviors or actions in place, they can go and actually enact rules and laws and policies that are equitable, that are just, and that positively impact, again, that community or the whole country, depending on who they are. And indirectly as well, meaning that even if the average citizen is impacted, well, the way that average citizen goes and votes, the ways in which that average citizen goes and holds their representative accountable and responsible to ensure that that person is representing, equitable and just policies. So indirectly, that's an impact as well. So your point is very well taken. And that's why that is the mindset that I have started to adopt and adapt and seeking to build upon, because I recognize the, like you said, opportunity there to make a huge impact.
Yeah, and even speaking about impact, when we dive into like activism, for example, I know when, if you think about it, just activating the search or activating the talk of the town, think about how well it actually transcends from a Twitter hashtag to a CNN brief. So how serious can this be taken so that people can actually see it from a clubhouse room to a Twitter thread to a CNN brief, for example?
Absolutely. That's another, exactly, when we talk about impact, that's another route. It's not just through the route of, voting, or the route of the work of a, legislative person or an executive branch government person, who executes the law or what have you, right? Or the judicial branch or whomever, a police officer, a doctor, a physician, a lawyer, whomever, depending, because we all have spheres of influence. So it's not just the ways in which individuals impact their spheres of influence as a result of being exposed to our, our work and our brand, but it's also in the ways that you said, media is huge. So even traditional media, right? And then the reach expands beyond, one's own platform. So that is absolutely another measurement of impact, another route through which we can leverage digital media to have impact.
Yeah, I think so too. And it helps because now it makes us aware, because there's actually an activity going on and you're using social media to drive that information.
And I'm thinking of so many campaigns. You think about End SARS, from Nigeria, when they were trying to end, the basically police brutality and corruption. You think about, of course, we talked about George Floyd and BLM, Bring Back Our Girls, and numerous other campaigns. So it translates even, way beyond those major campaigns touched multiple pieces. So It was the advocacy piece, it was the activist piece, it was the piece with law and legislation, the piece with changing, you know, literally the ways, the processes and the ways that we engaged with all aspects of society. But it was also through media, and it was also through, again, engaging as many people to raise their awareness so that it impacts even education and curriculum, so that these are things that people are now being taught in schools, which creates sort of long-term impact, right? Sustainable long-term impact. So absolutely, it's a very, very powerful tool to optimize digital media aptitude and competency, so that we can be better ambassadors for these ideas.
Yeah, I think so too. And this has helped a lot of people to understand the value of communication, because now we're communicating more effectively than ever. Because people are communicating through text, through audio, through video, through graphics, and now through voice. And I think with the voice piece, it's really changed how people think, because after like I've spoken to you, I'm going to go to your back channel, I'm going to go to your DM, and I'm going to echo what you said, which leads into a communication flow, or it leads to an answer, question, debrief, something that's going to help you make a decision. So now in your field, how has that helped? Because I know you're so busy focusing on patients and people who actually are dealing with health, and it's literally a serious thing. It's very serious. So how do you activate that engagement and still stay relevant without, being one-sided? Yeah, that's the word. Instead of being one-sided to one particular practice.
Give me an example. Help me understand by giving me an example.
I'm thinking, for example, like let's say you have to be on duty, for example, the whole week. But at the same time, there's this information that you're experiencing outside the platform that needs people to have more information based on what you're showing them externally. So you're so focused on delivering that answer, but at the same time, people don't know the answer because on social media, no one's talking about it. So how can you still have time to do that and still be able to show that impact? So do you use voice? Like what is the practice that people are already using as a standard so they can be able to maximize on their time and their efforts?
I think that's a great question. I think video is really helpful. The lives are really great. So I'm thinking of an example. I did a feature for one of our local news outlets on COVID and also air pollution. And the impact of air pollution on health and health outcome, and how air pollution intersects with COVID in terms of how, when you live in a place that has high air pollution, scores, as we do in many parts of the Detroit metropolitan area, that you are predisposed to developing chronic lung diseases such as asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, but also other chronic illnesses like hypertension. Now, again, the reasons why people, are in places where they are disparately impacted by, toxins such as air pollution, rooted in, again, structural racism and housing segregation, that had limited the options of, many people of color, particularly Black folk, to live in certain parts of the country or certain neighborhoods, and those neighborhoods not having the appropriate investment and regulation to ensure that they were protected from all kinds of harm, whether it's harm from, police, whether it's harm from poverty, whether it's harm from, from disease, illness, or harm from toxins and pollutants. And so we know that to be true. We know that to be the case. And so talking about the intersection of air pollution, COVID-19, because again, if you have high rates of asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, etc., hypertension, these are all risk factors for having severe COVID illness if you were to contract, COVID-19. And part of the and this feeds into the mechanisms of why, you know, Black folks have disproportionate impact of COVID-19 in our communities. So understanding how all these things are connected and are related to each other and intersected is part of what I do. And so I was able to feature on one of our local newspaper outlets on this subject. Now, at the same time, I was working in the hospital, like you said, you know, I was needing to be, again, on the front lines of COVID while engaging in this and needing to raise awareness about that. And so what I learned from others who do this so excellently was, well, you know, talk to people on the go, using video, which is audio visual. And so that's what I did. And so while I was heading to talk to, you know, for a photo shoot for the feature, I went on live on IG and Twitter and talked about what I was doing and gave, you know, behind the scenes and then, you know, use that opportunity to talk about the issue. So that's one way that I have done it. So I think that audio visual and also and audio or voice alone, these are very easy, you know, accessible ways to just quickly get that thought out there while you're sort of in between tasks. So as I was heading from one spot to the other, go on live, talk about it while I headed over there. You know, when I was done with the photo shoot, heading back to the office, I went on live again. So I think those are ways. And then why I love Twitter, and that's my most successful platform really, is just, you know, that 280 characters or less, you know, and it's like you could just put your thought out there concisely and send it, you know, into the world, and you know, you build an engagement, you know, that way. And so I can quickly just write a very quick thought about that, what's happening, the issue. You know, air pollution is a risk factor for severe COVID-19 disease, and we need to be more passionate or more, you know, aggressive really on ensuring that we have equitable and just air, you know, air pollution policies. So something like that, and just put that out there and be done with it. And then also saying it like on video and sending that out into the Twitterverse, into the, you know, into the IG verse, so to speak, as well. And then, you know, speaking of voice, we definitely talk about Clubhouse, but now Twitter Spaces is getting a lot of attention, and Twitter Spaces is like the Twitter subversion of Clubhouse. And so I recently I was on a panel with USA Today on Twitter Space, and then the other day I saw NPR did something on Twitter Space too. So it's now becoming, you know, I think the Twitter gods are and goddesses are doing a better job of marketing it, so that these larger, you know, media outlets are leveraging that platform to, I think, to generate awareness and consciousness for their content as well. So those are a few examples, a few ways that I can think of where you can manage it. And I will tell you this, I am not the best example of how to manage all of these things. I'm still learning myself, but I think, like I said, I'm not a model. I'm not, you know, my brand, so to speak, is not in looks and things of that nature. So I don't have to take time and make sure that I'm all dolled up and I have done my makeup and my this and my that and have that filter and this. I don't have to do any of that. So it's easier, it's more accessible to just get on live or get on a video or, you know, take a photo or something and share that, rather than for me to wait until I'm all dolled up so that I can talk to the people. And so I think that helps. Hey, shout out to all the models and the beautiful people out there that are, you know, this is a whole thing. Look, I cannot do what they do. God bless them. I'm just saying that for me, that is one blockade that's you know, that's a chunk of time that I don't have to worry about because I'm so busy doing all these other things in addition to being a mama and you know, and a wife, that I don't have to worry about that because I ain't got the time.
It's true, because we have to deal with life itself. You know, we think social media is all we have, and yet there's a real life going on right behind those fingers. So it's something that people think, and I think once you process it through, it's better. because like you mentioned with video, all I was thinking as you were mentioning video was, imagine if you have like you and your other experts as well, go on a, let's say a Clubhouse or an Instagram live, the four of you, and start talking about these topics. Somebody can take that content and run that into a blog, and then run that back into your website or back into your practice. And that's going to build relationships, because you are what you feed. You know, how you feed yourself is how you end up becoming. So I think that nourishment that comes from hearing conversations from other people helps them understand that, oh, I'm not just talking to myself, because people listen to conversations. Yeah.
No, 100%. Like that was so important for me when I started getting more active on digital media, particularly Twitter, was exactly that. Oh, I'm not by myself. Just that is huge right there. And I really think that ultimately, at the end of the day, no matter how much we're leveraging social media to do 1,000 different things, I think connection is always front and center for the primary purpose of social media, the social aspect of social media. Okay. Pardon me, is so key. And so yes, it's that sense of, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one who feels this is not right, who feels that we should be doing this other thing, who feels like this and the other, right? I'm not the only one. And of course that works for good and for bad, because you have people with terrible ideas that find other people with terrible ideas, and then it's a whole mess. And we're seeing a lot of that with like COVID vaccine disinformation, but there's so many examples of that across the board. However, I think that majority of the time, people do have wonderful ideas, and being able to meet and collaborate with others of like mind is so important. You also said something that's really, really key, which I'm also learning and I'm working on, which is, again, repurposing of content, right? And so, yes, you have a conversation on Clubhouse, you have a conversation on live, and then you that becomes translated into a blog, which can also be translated into a thread, which can be translated into a variety of different components. I think that is so important, and that also expands, one's reach. And like I learned from you at the last, class where we met, you can put that into a Pinterest also format as well. So there are many ways to repurpose a lot of this content. And then the other thing I wanted to say, just in reflection of your previous question, like we said about time and the fact that we have life, and there's only so much that you can do. I think it's so important, and I'm still working through this, is you figure out what you can do and you do that, and you don't kill yourself. At the end of the day, we are doing the work, and we have to remember that regardless of social media, your most powerful sphere of influence is where you're at right now, like in life, in real life, like you right now, in your family, in your job, in your school, in your class, in your church, in your mosque, in your synagogue, temple, in the grocery store, like wherever you are in the world right now, like is your most powerful way, like sphere of influence. Like we all do, even with siblings, even if it's your friends, your cousins, even if it's your classmates, even if it's your colleagues, your work, whatever it is, that is your most powerful sphere of influence. So I just want to lift that up, like at the end of the day, focusing on that, and then figuring out, okay, how do I connect that to like my digital strategy, but to not ever neglect the real life human connections that you have, to grow those and build those. And also that social media really should be a tool towards strengthening those connections. At the end of the day, it really does come down to that. At the end of the day, is so key. And I it's important that we don't lose sight of that in the middle of all that we're talking about, which is very important, but we cannot lose sight that ultimately this is just a means to strengthen those human interpersonal connections. And that is what carries the most power. So making time for those, maintaining those connections are very key. And then at the end of it, you have your digital social media expertise and all of that. Because no matter how powerful and influential and successful you are on these digital spaces, if when you're there and you look to your left and your right and you don't have people with you, then one has to think about how successful are you really.
Exactly. And I believe success is determined by a lot of people. I may be wrong, but success to me is defined by how well I was able to help someone move from point A to B. Because the success shows in them. It's not just me. I'm supposed to be there as a helper to help someone go somewhere from point A to B, but I'm not helping you to stay. I'm helping you to grow. So I love the fact that you mentioned that, because that's a thing a lot of people don't see success, and they think success is $1 million, but they really don't know that if 1% of that amount goes to a charity or goes to someone that can help, move something forward, or 10% of that, you pay your tithe, like doing things that are very practical, but at the same time, focusing on, okay, if I pay this today, is it going to help me tomorrow? And that success is now defined when you see the results of that practice.
I really love that. And what you reminded me of is also just remembering, and that's why one of the successful strategies to growing, right, to growth period, is how you help other people grow as well. And what I mean by that is, one of the ways that I started growing my followership, again, I'm not like 10K, like, no, but just growing, because sometimes it's not that absolute number, is how fast you're increasing that number, or that you are increasing that number at all, because there are people that are stagnant, but the fact that you're even adding a little at a time that's awesome. You may not be 10K or 100K, a million, but your little, like, 100, your little 500, your and it's not even little, that's a lot already, right? Your 1,000, whatever. How are you taking care of them? I learned this from another person who I thought was really brilliant. How are you nurturing? How are you lifting them up? How are you elevating them? Are you going on their pages and liking their stuff and making comments and retweets, like in Twitter, retweeting it? Are you how are you amplifying other people's work? So that, and that actually does work as a wonderful strategy. It's like, it's not just thinking of ourselves, but really focusing on the social media, the community building aspect. How are we lifting up other people's work? And as we do that, other people lift your work up and take it to the levels that you can't alone. And it's so important that we have that mindset. I think oftentimes, as I listen to some of these conversations, and I observe how people, again, engage on this platform or trying to hustle on this platform, that they forget that. But that is truly one of the best ways, organic ways to grow, and organic ways to build and nurture community and that engagement. I love what you said. That's one of my key takeaways from this conversation. How did you say it? You engage so that you can solve, right? Like,
yeah, the more you engage, the more you solve.
The more you engage, the more you solve. I love that. And that engagement is not just like your audience necessarily, or like speaking to the audience, but as you know your audience, how can you help amplify your audience and their voice and whatever the heck they're doing, even if it may or may not be related to what you're doing. So yes, I think that's a beautiful principle.
Yeah, thank you so much for highlighting that and bringing that back for people to listen, because as they're listening, they're also taking notes and they're putting themselves in the picture. Like, am I doing this? Am I the one that decided to do this? And then that starts to grow over time. And the last question I wanted to ask, because you touched on this somewhere in the beginning about the vaccine. On Clubhouse, there are a lot of rooms that are going on. And we're talking about information, solving problems. So because you're in the front line, how important is this vaccine for people to understand, not in a way that's going to make them make a decision, but for them to be educated?
It is very important. It is very important. Look, 99% of the people who are dying in the hospital right now from COVID-19, from severe COVID-19 disease, are unvaccinated. I mean, period. Okay, 99 over, because 99 point, who are dying in the hospital right now from severe COVID-19 disease are unvaccinated, period. The danger from COVID-19 outweighs any concern related to the vaccines. These vaccines are safe and effective. It has been proven time and time and time and time again. The science is clear, period. Okay, so it is so important to be educated. I needed to get educated myself. I did not take the vaccine immediately it came out because I needed to learn and understand the science myself, and I'm a scientist. So if I needed to do that, I can only imagine lay people, like non-scientists, folks that are non-medical, but there were even people who were not scientists and non-medical who got it early. Like they were like, yo, they were sharp. They were sharper than me. And I give them their flowers for that. But I needed to learn about it. I needed to talk to trusted messengers. I had asked my questions and they were answered. I have, family members who are physicians who were able to explain things to me to help me understand. And as I did that, I was much more and more, encouraged, that this is the right thing. It is safe and it is effective and it's the right thing. And so now everyone in my family is vaccinated except for my children under 12 because it's not eligible. We are hoping and praying that it comes eligible soon so that it's approved for the age group soon because my kids are 7, 5, and 3 so that they can get vaccinated and be protected. COVID-19 is real. It is no joke. It is not the way to die. It's not the way to suffer. Right now it's mostly young people, otherwise healthy people that are succumbing to this disease. So I think folks, it's unfortunate. There's a very powerful disinformation machine, and we talk about digital media and social media. Social media has been the platform that allows such a powerful misinformation machine to succeed, to run rampant. And provide false information to people. So I'm so very grateful for the doctors and healthcare workers and frontliners and scientists and public health folks and community advocates who are out here on these timelines, on these social media streets and the real streets, providing the information and the education. I'm really grateful to them for doing that. True experts that are advocating for what is right for all of us. We have to get out of this pandemic. And the way we are getting out of it is that we need to vaccinate to very high levels, to vaccinate all those who can be vaccinated, and of course, follow the public health precautions. At this time, we still need to continue to mask. We need to physical distance when it's possible, right? And just operate in where things are essential services, essential work, essential activities, participate in those until things are more in control. And that's all. And it's a question of how much we love ourselves because we value our lives and we value who we are. And then how much we love each other because we value the other person. Because it's not just about me. And if I don't get sick, I'm fine, I'm healthy, I'm this. And then, like I said, we're seeing young, healthy people succumb to this illness, or even if they survive, experience and suffer from long haul symptoms that causes them to be disabled and they can't even get back to life as usual, right? But it's if I transmit it to somebody else and they suffer, they die, they succumb to it, they have a severe outcome because they are, they're immunocompromised or what have you, or a child. So these are the realities. We live in a society. We have to think as a community. We have to understand that, there's a collective responsibility. And yes, it's not a perfect society. And there's a lot, we could do a lot better as a society and as a community and as government to take care of everybody. Yes, that is very true. And we must continue to fight that fight. And at the same time, make individual decisions that not only impact ourselves positively, but everybody else around us. So that's what I would say. And please reach out, listen to experts, not just, not everyone out here in the streets talking about COVID knows what they're talking about. I've heard almost all of them, and it is a hot mess. They don't know. They don't know. So you want to listen to folks that know, experts, have them to give you their specific credentials. Not everybody out here, even with a degree, is scientifically literate. It takes special trained skills to be able to critically appraise scientific literature. Not everybody can do that. Okay, so just because they throw studies around or they quote things doesn't mean they understand anything of what they're reading. I promise you, I've heard them all, and it's out of control. But that's okay. You just need to make sure that you are reaching out to trained experts, and we're out here. You can reach us on digital media, as we're talking about. But more importantly, try to talk to your own doctors. If you don't have a doctor, I ask that you get one. And if you're not able to get one because of insurance and other sort of financial barriers, there are free clinics. Call or contact your local health departments. Your local health departments are very wonderful, reliable sources of information. So there's information, credible information is out here. It's just you just taking a little bit of effort to expose yourself to it and being very, very intentional that you're getting correct, high quality information, that will help you, your family, and your community.
Wow. That was a mic drop right there. Oh my goodness. Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Ijeoma, for being here and just giving us all the information we need so that we can make the right decision and know what we need to do for the future. So this has been great, great, great. I know a lot of people are happy now listening to this. They're going to rewind this. And if there's a way they can reach out to you, what are the best options they have possible?
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. And thank you. This was so amazing conversation. And you're a wonderful interviewer. I'm so proud of all the work that you're doing. So thank you so much. So to reach me, you can reach me on Twitter or Instagram. My handle is at INN, as in Nancy, O as in orange, D as in David, I-M as in Mary. So that's INNODIM. So that's what I would say. You can reach me there. And then if we need to kind of, talk offline, we can exchange email and phone numbers and the rest of it, from there.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. Thank you so much. You guys tap in. She has all the resources available and you don't want to miss out on any of those clubhouse rooms that she has where she speaks, and you're going to learn something new, just like you've learned something today within this hour. So thank you so much once again, and I'll definitely be able to bring you back here for sure in the Read and Play station.
Thank you, Favor. This was so amazing. Thank you to all the audience members. I look forward to hearing from you. I'm looking forward to learning from you. I told you I'm still learning. So I'm just excited for new tips and tricks and strategies and knowing what y'all are doing and how we can work together. And that's the other thing too. I'm also open for collaboration. And I'll tell you this, and we can end on this. I'm all about innovative and creative collaborations. I think that there's so much opportunity out here to collaborate in just non-traditional ways. So I am very, very open to it. And I hope that folks can, my creative amazing folks can reach out so that we can think about, again, how do we organize using digital platforms in non-traditional, highly creative, highly innovative ways, and truly, truly have huge impact in the world today. Thank you, Favor.
You're most welcome. Thank you so much for joining the We Don't Play station. And
we don't play.
We don't play all day.
All day.
We'll meet again. Bye for now.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.